Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another session of Open Source Mentorship. My name is Saurabh Nanda, and I'm joined today on a very, very important discussion with Ms. Sagina Walyat. And thank you so much, Sagina, for taking out the time to join us. Welcome to another session of... Yeah, that was the YouTube live in the background. Sorry for that. Ritisha, why don't you go ahead and introduce Sagina a little bit, and then we can talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so hello everyone, and this is our 16th session that we're having at Open Source Mentorship, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. Today we have Miss Sagina Walyat, and she is a lawyer, a policymaker, and a visiting faculty at the Beacon of Rights. And she has profound commitment towards women's rights and gender equality. She has prestigious accolades and awards to her name. She is a Asia Global Fellow at the University of Hong Kong and Delegate Australia India Youth Bilateral Dialogue. So we have her today for this amazing discussion. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Ritisha, for this kind introduction. Truly appreciate it. Just one correction to make. I am the founder of the Beacon of Rights.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So today's topic is an interesting one. We've not touched upon such a topic since our inception. On May 21st, the United Nations celebrates the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. It's a very, very important day. Why? Because it was set up a few years ago by the United Nations. And one of the reasons for that is that a lot of conflicts around the world, they have a cultural element to it. And because of the cultural element, it's very important to understand, respect, and then celebrate each other's differences. This is something that our ex-president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, also used to say a lot. And that is what we understand, what we want to understand today with the help of Sagina and her work as to how those cultural differences, how that cultural diversity can be celebrated, what are the kind of conversations that can happen around it, how are things developed around those conversations, how that diplomacy, advocacy can be taken forward and make the world a better place. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and that will be... Okay. So Sagina, I would like to invite you and just talk a little bit about some of the advocacy work that you have been involved in over the last few years around cultural diversity in India and abroad.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for giving me this opportunity on this important day, which has a lot of potential. Actually, I would say the potential, it has the maximum potential to resolve the conflicts all across the world. So I'll start with why do we need it? In the sense, it is a globalization era, and so any kind of issue, any kind of problem, any kind of challenge, we cannot resolve it in isolation. Since we are connected in this world is interconnected today with this huge diversity. So we need partnerships, we need collaborations, we need more open markets for economy. Also, we need more people as well. So this is a very wholesome environment we need to create to resolve the global issues for global good. And this day particularly, in fact, I was once you provided me this opportunity, so I was going through the recent what happened with the development at the UN level. So that was very interesting thing they put out, that the last international World Diversity Day, while they were celebrating in Mexico, so they made a very tangible point, like it has a huge potential, and we should not make it just one indicator to SDG goals for 2030. We should make it a separate, completely separate goal to, as an 18th goal or something, to make it more relevant in the world. And we need to make more investments and more policies we need to draw at a global level to meet and to get the proper benefit out of it. So that was actually a very pushy thing. And because when we talk about, SDG goals, and in the light of this particular cultural diversity, it is not just limiting to one, it is limiting to, actually it is exposing to 5 or 6 SDG goals, like, gender equality, reduction of poverty, education sector, partnerships, peace building. So sustainability of cities and communities. So it is interconnected very strongly. And, if the impact is coming so largely that we need, the world is now, UN, is now, thinking to or developing to make it a separate goal, I am completely sure that we're going to have a bright and peaceful world with the coming years.
Excellent. So Sagina, when you talk about the fact that they want this to be separate SDG altogether, and there's a push for it, the reason for that is, do you think that culture can be used positively over here to actually build bridges, or is it something that most people, because as I described in the beginning, a lot of conflicts happen because of the cultural differences in the world? So is the push towards using culture for the opposite, like using it for the positive impact, building bridges and so on?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And before answering it, I would like to introduce a very simple definition to culture. What is actually culture? Before, to understand culture diversity, we need to understand what is culture. It's an evolution of, with the evolution of human or the societies all across, India, personally, if we take the example of our own city, which is we call it a very particular thing, unity in diversity. We are such a diverse country with 1,600 languages, 200 plus ethnic groups, multi-religion, and that too, world's major religion we have in a country, and still we are sustaining so good, compared to other cities, compared to other countries in South Asia. It's a challenge, but again, why we are getting successful? Because it's a culture that is in simplification, the way of life. And in our culture, in Indian culture, be it any religion, something, it is Atiti Devo Bhava, right? And on those policy level only, that India is now, inculcated this very factor, this cultural factor in their foreign policy on a bigger level, at a global level, that is Vasudeva Kutum. So, everything is connected from a basic culture from society perspective to a foreign policy. So it has definitely a full potential to change the world, to change the societies. And why? And while talking about culture, so culture actually, it is a problem if we see in isolation. And when it started, this way of living, the undocumented or the traditional rituals that started, it was into some were very good and some were really very in cruel nature, especially when if we touch upon the area of women or the gender. So it has not been really nice what we see. But if we go through the deeper side of the history, there were many cultures, there were many sections in India and across the world where, for example, Northeast, right, where we have matrilineal society, in South India also. So in one part of India, if I quote the example of, because I work on SRHR rights also. So if I say, period poverty is an issue, right? And nobody talks about that. That is so many myths around it. But you go to South India, they celebrate it. There is a particular, event or the kind of, ceremonies they do. So it's a cultural thing, right? They will see, okay, why, the South Indian will say, why North Indians does like that? And the North Indians will take an inspiration in modern times. Okay, so there is another aspect to it, and we can see it from that. So there are many problems due to culture, but there are many solutions when all the cultures come together. So cultures all together brings out the best practices, the successful stories, and also challenge the very, radical or very, like, for example, we see a successful story, I would say, or not successful, I would say, on the path of being successful. We can quote the example of West Asia, how Arab countries are changing, especially UAE and Saudi Arabia. They are changing for women, they are making changes in law. And how did that happen? Their culture, their religion was something else, but how it's happening? If we, because there was a migration, there were people coming and exploring, and that somewhere hit their mind, okay, these are another aspect to economy. So culture is now also getting connected with economy. So that is why there is, a kind of positive approach the world is now taking, that we need to have more conversation for our personal growth, for our national interest as well. Because it's not just about, actually it goes two way when we say dialogues and everything. In fact, I was reading about this on UN, documents as well. First, they introduced this as a World Day for Cultural Diversity, but in the very next year, in 2002, if I'm not wrong, so they made it Cultural Diversity and Dialogues and Development. So it's all, if we read it carefully, it's all connected to economy, to social impact, to our, respecting our culture. And it also comes like sort of acceptance of yourself, questioning the supremacy, acceptance, the world is accepting you, you are accepting yourself. So I see it as a, bridging a gap plus breaking the ice. And if I bring a woman aspect to that, globalization, reglobalization, it has all, helped women to grow more, to empower their self. So
Excellent.
altogether, it's all connected, but, we need more collaborations on that, and that too, continuous collaborations on that.
Absolutely.
And
I completely, resonate with everything that you've said. And there's a reason why, countries like Peru, they, do a lot of food diplomacy across the world. There's a reason why China does panda diplomacy. So they will give pandas to, friendly countries and whatnot. There's a reason why a lot of soft power of the world's countries comes from your cultural richness. For example, India exports yoga, Bollywood, and a bunch of other things, Ayurveda, to the world, right? So I completely understand, completely resonate with all of those things. So wonderful. Speaking about bridging the gap and breaking the ice. So Sagina, my simple question is, do you think that the cultures across the world, is it possible to bridge the gap between all the cultures in the world and break the ice between all the people in the world?
no, I mean, I think that's a very large statement to make. It will go step by step, and I don't see, I mean, that will be completely, myths. I mean, sorry, that will be completely illusionary or imaginary statement. Okay, there will be peace around the world. That's not going to happen, because, somewhere our national interest and our other things, that will keep on happening. But definitely, with these dialogues, with these exchange, we can somewhere, reduce down the conflicts. Why I'm saying, I'll quote it with one example. When America was, planning to bomb the Japan in World War II. So there was one place called Kyoto. So it was supposed to be dropped there first. But the person, the officer at that position, who was supposed to be commanded to throw those nuclear bombs there, he said, he was bit skeptical. He said, I cannot do that because I have spent a very wonderful honeymoon with my wife there. So emotional things, when there is an emotional connect, that stays with you for long, for decades, for centuries, and definitely it helps you resolve things. So from my experience, I would say, when we go out, and we somewhere we like I spend a good time in Hong Kong for my studies and everything. I have that now, have developed that kind of emotions, that if there is any conflict, or if there is any situation that is coming, I can personally say I want to make a contribution from myself with my work, and reduce down the conflicts, and reduce, if it should not happen, but if this happen. So same thing, like I quote the example of Australia also with my experience. So there is one particular thing, the ambassadors and everybody is very fascinated about cricket and curry. They resonate with India. So these things happen, and they have a very potential mark, and they lays a great foundation to develop your comprehensive partnership, your strategic partnerships from top to bottom. It's very fascinating to see how it plays so well. Yeah.
So again, very interesting. But culture then also, increases the chance of identity clashes, right? Amartya Sen, in his, book in early 2000s, I think it was called The Argumentative Indians. He talked about the fact that, it's primarily based on identity, what most conflicts are why most conflicts are taking place in the world today, because my identity is different than yours and my identity has to be superior than yours. So there's this constant comparison. And we see that around, especially on social media a lot nowadays. We've talked to Bharat, we've talked to Uzair about echo chambers, which primarily revolve around the fact that we are all identical, or we belong to the same identity category or group. And that is why, we cannot be friends, or we cannot agree with the other party, or something like that. So where do you think, Sagina, from your experience, where do you think that fine line is crossed? When everyone talks about cricket and curry, it's all good. But where does the fine line, disappear, and people start going into their own identity categories and so on?
So I'll definitely want to make a comment on that argumentative Indian. So that has been, I also had that personal, personal experience on that, when I was pointed out at a global forum that you Indians are like that. So I take it now, that time it used to be very fuzzy to hear that, but now I take it a compliment. Even though we are argumentative or something like that, but now look around the world, you name any big company, the CEO of that company is Indian, right? So, and how that happened? Because of migrations. And how migrations happen? Because other part of the world, other part of society accepted to happen that migration, right? It's very easy to point a finger to one sector of the world, or one section of the world, but again we also need to understand that how the other part of the world has accepted the people from the developing countries, the people who has a challenged background. It took a long way. We faced a lot of struggles also, especially in terms of the wide gap between global south and global north. But now the result, the outcome is before us, right? The more the world is migration happening. I'm talking about the legal migration, not illegal migration. So the more legal migration is happening, the more societies are accepting each other. You are getting a better result out of it, because they are not solving their own problem, they are not solving their country's problem, they are not solving their regional problem, they are solving the global problem. They are creating the global opportunities for everyone. So when the opportunity comes, it is not like, okay, this is for this section of the world, it's open for everyone. So fine line when we talk about and identity is a very strong emotion for one individual. They carry it throughout their life, even though we born in one country, but we are for whatever reason we are living in another country. You will not be able to take that your born country identity out of you. So and with that identity, culture also transcends. So it's a very complex and critical combination. And the fine line, we would say, when somebody doesn't respect your culture, when somebody doesn't respect or accept you for being different, then it becomes a challenge. And on the basis, specifically on the basis of your skin, your clothes, your language, your accent, then it becomes a challenge. And this challenge will persist. I will not say that it will go away like that, but definitely, with small steps, with gradual steps, we can do it. I also, from the previous question, I also want to address, I missed out the conflict part. So when the UN, came into existence, it came after World War II, when world needed peace. After, devastating wars and conflicts and everything. After that, we are seeing a lot of migration is happening from this part to another part. Now everybody's interest, for example, now, I'm just straight away coming to today's world. Per se, Ukraine and Gaza, there is a war going on. So, but you will see the stand of Spain, even though those countries participation of partnership of US, they are supposed to be on the side of Israel, but they are also taking small steps to reduce down the conflict. And they although Spain shares a very good relation with India, when India asked for the permission very recently, this happened to dock their ship in which there were ammunition and everything, it was supposed to go to Israel. They stopped there. They said, we are not going to give you this permission to dock that ship in our port. So it shows it's not just about ideology anymore. It's not just about your own perception or your own identity. Now it's about interconnected interest. Do you think Spain has done this specifically for ethical, moral thing? No, they have their own reasons, because the people on that land, they are speaking against it very categorically. So the interest is in a bigger or in a smaller portion. It's all interconnected, and I think globalization has done a such wonderful job on that thing, because they have connected the world all together. We're gonna have problems. We have had problems like COVID, like climate, but in these problems only we will have good solutions also in collaboration and participation. Yeah.
True, so true. And these problems can only be solved through global collaboration. So Sagina, I would like to now go, I would say more molecular into the conversation, like from the global perspective. Let's go to a more local perspective, and your work with women has been exemplary. I would like to understand how cultural lines prevent multiple genders from accessing the same kind of opportunities that maybe the dominant gender, which across the world is males, apparently right now. So what opportunities the males are able to experience or get, the other genders are not able to get, only because of cultural lines. Have you seen such things in your work? Can you give us some examples or help us understand better?
Yeah, definitely. From my groundwork, I would say, but I'll start with my example only, because the place I come from, my birthplace, my hometown, that's actually acutely a border area alongside the Pakistan. And my society is also very regressive, used to be very regressive and patriarchal. So once when I made the choice to pursue law, so for me, the reaction of my family was, they were, they were just numb. They were not giving any expression to me, like as if my decision doesn't matter to them. And if it does matter, so I'm not in a that capacity, or I don't have that competency to make a right decision. So I was in 10th standard that time, and they were like, no, this profession is not for women, so don't think about that. But I persisted them for next 2 years, and then I cleared for I appeared for that entrance and everything in 12th standard, and I made it. So it was a it was a great step for me. And actually at that time, if I compare my the friends, male friends, in this society, my brother, they used to have more funds allocation in terms of their education, and compared to women in this um, in this society. And I was the person who was not given an opportunity to go to any coaching center. But on the same lines, my other friends and my brother, they were given, because we were on the same range of catching the careers and appearing for exams, entrance exams. So they were sent out for this. I'm sorry, I'm having some problem in my eye.
No worries,
Yeah.
no worries.
So though they were without any question, and everything was made, all the arrangements were being placed for them and everything. And for me, it was like, what would you do with this? So that was straight away question. But now the time has changed a lot in my city also, and all across also. It's been more than now a decade, if I precisely say 14 years now. So I think a lot has changed. But again, there are still many challenges. When I go to interiors of India, or say, urban cities also, uh, especially if I talk about the work opportunities, or rather if we talk about the COVID times, you would have seen a lot of layoffs, and in that layoffs, the category for women laying off was quite higher compared to men. So because there's still that conditioning in your head, in your boss, be it a woman or a man, that women are less productive. Instead of implementing the caregiving section, or instead of policies, instead of making efforts to have a more balanced parenting, they straight away say it's very easy for them, the companies and the private sector, to just lay off the women, because now their work has been doubled or tripled, so they are not good product for us. And this is the reality, not in India, but the whole world. So the challenge will still there, and and if we go by the reports, it will take 130 years to achieve that gender equality per se. But I'm skeptical for that also, for 130 years also. And while we are continuing on this path, there will be more challenges as well, like gender pay, and and work opportunities. So unless we have, and for that matter, I would like to suggest Taiwan is doing a wonderful job on gender equality. Their implementation. See, it's not just about having policies. As a law professional, I understand, okay, this is the first step to have a legislation or policy in favor of something that is challenging at a societal point. But the effective implementation also plays a great role in that. Unless and until we have very good legislation, we have very good policies, but when it comes to policies implementation, you will see it's not very pleasing to see how those implementation taking place, especially in this suburban areas or the rural areas. On documents, on you have institutional structure as well, but there is no training. And if there is a training, that training is very average. And plus, there is no intent also. People are now being recruited, the people who've been recruited there, they're going there as so this is something, we got a job, we got a power, we are getting a money, but their mind and heart is not at a place to give the real benefit of that to the women or the beneficiaries of that. Yeah.
No, excellent. And I completely, resonate with you. Actually, a couple of days ago, I was again in Chandigarh, and I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine, and he was just talking about how some parents could not understand where their girl, would fit in the legal system in India. Why? Because in movies of all law or legal matters related movies, you only see men in the courtroom. There are hardly any women seen in those movies, so they can't really have that perception. Whereas the data suggests that for CLAT, for all the top NLUs, wonderful places like Punjab University, law faculty, now the number of girls is almost 50% of the entire class, but they're still not going into the traditional, legal studies or legal practice routes like criminal law maybe. But most of them are going into the corporate law section. So I hope, all the things that you were talking about, how, the careers and salaries and the pay gap, etc., that should be improved, because a lot of women are entering into the corporate law, section in our country. And secondly, I completely again resonate with you when you talk about Taiwan, because when I visited Taiwan, it is the only East Asian country which has a very open policy framework. It was the first East Asian country to have an open framework about homosexuality, about multiple genders, which are still taboo in Japan, South Korea, or China, and even Singapore for that matter. So things are definitely changing. Sagina, have you seen or encountered a lot of women in the same line of work that you are involved in, or are you one of the very few rare women who work in this area?
Okay, so I need a little more explanation on this question in terms of jurisdiction, any particular jurisdiction, or just all across you're saying?
Let's talk about, gender
India
rights.
or the rest of the country.
So the entire country, human rights, gender rights, and then probably we can talk about, the entire legal profession in India as such.
So in terms of social impact, I would say a lot of women you will see a lot of movement also. And in terms of, I don't have an Indian data in my mind right now, but in terms of global data, you will see more women on higher position as well. And for for operation and functionality of the social impact organization, there will be more women, for the reason that it is related to women. There's a mindset, okay, you're approaching women, you're approaching children, so more vulnerability is there. So the jobs which are related to caregiving still, even if you are living out of home, but you are doing the caregiving job only, you are giving the vulnerable job only. So for that matter, the women are the better choice for the organizations also, and women are more dedicated, and in terms of emotional content, they have more, the emotional quotient they have more, so it's a fit job for them. In terms of legal industry, I would say in this when it comes to the enrollment, you will see roughly, I would say 35% women are getting enrolled in litigation. But when it comes to, practicing it, so it is nearly around 9%. So it's a huge gap there, even though, and I see it a waste of resources. It's very disappointing also, and not just government resources, also for for your parents' resources also. They invest equally now in their son and in their daughter, but the outcome is not coming as the same. I'm not blaming women here, but rather the environment it gives. When I started my practice, so again, there's my personal story. So my dad put a restriction, clear-cut restriction. You have to leave this place, the place I'm living, if you want to practice. Before that, he was like, you cannot practice, you go for judiciary and everything, because it's not a place. I agreed with your demand. You have done your law and all that. So now you come back with this. But when I started practice, I then I had to leave my place. And if had it been the case of any male member, or per se my brother or something, this condition would not have been at that place. So it was challenging for me as well. First, nobody takes you seriously, and women plus young women both creates an issue. So it is an additional part, because neither your boss takes you serious that time. Now the things have changed, especially in high court. There you will see, in high court you will see the seniors give you more respect now. They give you more space, learning space as well, and they also commented. I've seen. In fact, I worked with the good, law offices. They commented the timings also with you. For the women lawyers or the women interns. But in my time, they were like, okay, you read this, and they don't give you any work to do tomorrow because they don't trust you actually. And the clients also, if you get a by chance, by God grace, you got a good senior, if he allots you one case or something in your internship or juniorship, the client will get, it's very interesting to notice their reaction. This girl, the girl will take my case. So yeah, I mean, it's a societal thing, not just a professional or some institutional thing. But yeah, there were challenges, but somehow with other women, even though less at that time, you surpass all these challenges. Yeah. And now, still, I would say the environment does matter. So the environment in high courts is very encouraging for women. And environment in trial court, especially the small towns, the not very progressive states like Punjab, you will have a challenge, and you will get many opportunities where you will make your mind, okay, I'm dropping it off. I cannot handle it. So yeah, it still persists.
Okay. And what about other genders, Sagina? The non-binary genders? Do you
Yeah,
see lawyers?
this picture. I mean, it's very tough. Even we have done so much improvement, and there is so much empowerment and everything. But the point is, we can have policies, but the people who are going to implement those policies on ground, they are still stuck with those conditional mindsets. They don't give space to others. Like, for example, I say I have worked with the transgender community in Chandigarh. So there was with all the push and everything, the leader of that community, she was able to establish transgender welfare board in Chandigarh. But ironically, you see, who should be the chairperson of that board? Ideally, it should be the trans person, right? But again, they have never given them any official position to them.
Hmm.
So how do you expect a change? Policy is there, everything is there, funds are being allocated. We have a separate ministry for this at a central level. But the conditioning. So the for to to do a lot of, I mean, what my advocacy is more about unlearning rather than learning, because we have learned so much, right or wrong, that's a separate thing. But we need to now inculcate the habit of unlearning a lot, because we have learned so much wrong thing, be it coming from a colonization period or something, because before, why I mentioned this specific point, colonization and everything, before that Indian culture and Indian society was quite open in terms of accepting these genders. If you see the Hindu context, they were quite open, and in fact, in other religion also, they were given a very respectable jobs. But now it has been reduced to just due to these very they are not educated. The clear discrimination is there from school level to office level to everything. It's there.
So what do you think? And I would like to now invite also Ritisha and Prateek, who are our young, team members of OSM. What has your experience been, Ritisha? You have also treaded a very unconventional path, right? And what was the kind of, well, what were the challenges that you faced when you were going on that path?
So thankfully, my parents have been the pillar and haven't, like, I'll say I'm privileged that I didn't have those challenges that Sagina ma'am is talking about, that your parents are, kind of maybe just protecting you in a way because they've seen the world, but they still want you to grow. So I haven't gone through that, but in terms of my own stream, I have done BSc in economics, mathematics, and statistics. And in my own batch, I had a class of 40 students, and out of that, only I think we were 7 girls. So we talk about the gender gap there. And about the legal thing that Sagina ma'am was talking about, I witnessed a friend of mine. She wants to pursue law and she's very passionate about it. But then again, her parents still today are saying the same thing, that don't go for this kind of law, do corporate law, it's more safe and it's not for girls, don't do criminal law, don't do this, don't do that. So those kind of things are still there and I've seen them, but I mean, things are slowly changing, I would say. Very slowly, but still they are changing.
Okay. And Prateek, in your
Uh,
batch at Delhi University, what do you see?
I guess there are enough number of girls here, and I would say for myself that I was very privileged to this because initially I opted for science, but then I switched to commerce, and my parents supported me for that. But I believe that in India there is so much intolerance. Like ma'am also mentioned that in USA people are accepting CEOs from Indian origin. In UK, people are expecting a prime minister who is from Indian origin. Again, in USA, they are accepting a vice president who has an Indian origin. But when it was about to happen in our own country a few years back, we were resisting it. So I guess there is a more intolerance in India, and in recent times it has increased only.
So, Prateek, I had a slightly tough question for you,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you would like to answer it or not. Do you see a lot of non-binary gender students in your class?
No, I guess no.
No?
Yeah, that's the show that I am also a bit hypocritical in this sense because I didn't mention them. I didn't consider them. So that's because maybe because I am grown in a society which do not consider these things. So
Okay.
yeah, but still I am learning for that.
So, Sagina, I mean, what do you think are the solutions, how we can unlearn as a society? What all activities need to be done at the campus level where, Prateek is there, and at school level, as you mentioned, and then, of course, at various levels in the profession?
See, the openness of a mind is very important. That's a straightaway, non-formal answer, but it has the essence of everything here. When we practice. Once we practice this openness of mind, it needs a lot of collaboration. It needs a lot of partnerships, because unless and until we are listening from the stakeholder, unless and until we are spending time with that person, what are their challenges, we will not be able to do away those challenges. And when I say do away, we need to have that kind of infrastructure at place. We need to have that kind of institutional morals also. For example, you're specifically talking about the gender. In Punjab University, it was a big show when a transgender wants to enroll herself for masters, and they were like, we don't have any policy. And I'm talking about this maybe more than a decade now, but still, and now they are fighting for the hostel. So there is no infrastructure. When there is no infrastructure, how do you think you will see more people? And and this is the key only. Place that infrastructure. People will come, make them comfortable, and the other genders will, it's very easy, makes very comfortable to you seeing 4 or 5 transgender crossing your way, and you will say, okay, that's fine. But if you're seeing for the first time in this age, in your youth or in your student life, your eyes will change, right? You will notice it differently. I give a very small example for that, in terms of our education system also, that needs to change a lot. I was, my niece was in prep classes, and we read A for apple, B for ball, and everything. So there was like B for boy and G for girl. So that also makes sense. Why can't you write T for trans? Just to make it more visible. Just to make it from your childhood only, you just make it more visible to them. Okay, there is another kind of person also. There's from different gender, and we need to respect their choices. Yeah, I mean, when we start the foundation from very basic level, it becomes easy for the generation, especially the coming generation of the youth, to inculcate more. And Saurabh, one thing I also want, which is very practical and that makes a sense also. It's very easy to talk about other gender on on discussion forums and on these channels, but what are we doing actually for them? Are we going and spending time with them? Even if you can't do anything, right? Go spend with them because they need your support. Not for them, not for their upliftment, everything, but to gain the confidence. Okay, we are a part of this society. We are not an alien and we will not be treated as an alien. You see their housing. Have you seen their housing in your locality? You will see their housing in a different part of the city, like aliens. So if we have that kind of structure and everything, what do you expect in future? You cannot expecting any big change or tangible change. They will keep on fighting. But there is a very good example for, say, this from Maharashtra. So there is one group of this non-binary people. They have built their own website where they, create, publish the opportunities. You can specifically targeting this community, the job opportunities, their CVs, everything comes on the one platform. Then they give it. But again, the challenge comes: how many trans people are educated enough, and that to good quality education. Quality of education is a challenge for women right now, also for men also, in fact, because of a diverse geographical thing and everything. So it becomes more difficult for them. So we need to have a more people-centered, from different gender approach, and the institutional and infrastructure at place.
Excellent. But Sagina, I mean, when you talk about change in school curriculum, and when a small child who can absorb anything and learn anything,
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. I missed a very important point. Like, we have all the, acts and legislation to protect women at workplace. But, even if repeated advices from all stretch of policymaker and everything, the ministry has failed to include the trans community or non-binary community per se. That's again a conditional mindset. So on one side, you're saying we are empowering them, we are giving them education, we have made those policies, now they are educated. But if you are not protecting them at a workplace, what is the use of this? It's all going to bounce back.
True.
So it's complex, it's critical.
So true. My question was very simple. I mean, a young person, a young child, when learn something like this in their curriculum about non-binary genders and everything, do you think the parents will be in support then, or do we need separate parenting classes for them? What do we need to do?
No, I would say it will have not really a fair share of parents, those who will agree to it. But small steps that makes a difference. If they are reading T for trans, doesn't make any horrible situation for parents, but at least you are starting. And in fact, we were developing a few years back, we were developing the idea of introducing a toy, a toy in the sense of the same body wearing boy clothes, wearing girl clothes. You can also have a third toy also, wearing different clothes, maybe rainbow colors. So it's not going to make any change per se on the mind of that child, but it will lead to acceptance that there are different people. And specifically to answering to that question, you will see a great kind of hesitation in parents, be it any part of the world. Not just India, not just small towns. You go to any progressive country, progressive part of that country, they will have hesitation. But their reservation somewhere is also justified when, that's why we need dialogues. We cannot say they are anti that. Their point of view is, because on one of the forum, we had this kind of discussion. And they were like, when you were talking about the fine line, don't cross that fine line. Right. You are doing it. We are ready. They are coming to school. Okay. It should not be like with their permission, but I'm just stating what they said. We are ready to accept them in our schools with our kids, but we don't want those children to share the same toilet. Right. And I see it. Okay. So you are giving me one positive sign and one negative sign, but I'll go for the one positive sign because that will be the first step of acceptance. Right. And we should also, inclusivity is not about force everybody to come together. It's about, make those measures, create that kind of confidence, create that kind of emotional connect, create that kind of infrastructure. And then, eventually by step, you can reach the ultimate goal. Right. So that was very fair. For the beginning, that was very fair. You're joining us, you're sitting with us, you're eating with us, everything. But, don't use that washroom, and which is fair, because they are also, we cannot punish the other parents for just in the name of inclusivity. Though I may sound radical on this, but I would say it's a very practical thing to practice, very practical, rather than not doing anything on that point.
Okay, very nice. Sagina, before we conclude today, I would like you to talk a little bit about what you do through your foundation. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do. And, if somebody is listening to it, some young person is listening to this, and they would like to get in touch with, or maybe they'll just get inspired by you. So, please tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Yeah, so, my foundation came into existence very later. It came in 2018 probably, but before that I was doing everything without under the umbrella of organization, because I have that kind of image conscious trait in me, that okay, NGO people are like this, because that's how we have seen in this part of the India. They take funds, they don't do anything. So I wanted to make that point in my life. Without organization also you can do a lot of things. So I started my work in 2014 with legal literacy. Okay. And that was a big, challenging plus a big rewarding time for me, because I started everything all alone. And then, with God's grace and with my help of my, parents, we were able to create a good foundation for that matter. And, in that period, it's not just you are all set ready. So I'm talking about my generation. 10 decades back, things were very different. I didn't have resources. I just had intent, right? And you cannot say, okay, this is the thing I'll do when I have this. Make your resources, manage your things within available resources. And that was the key for still also for our organization. So now we do legal literacy at a more expanded way. We do policy making, especially for workplace, protection of women at workplace. And then we deal in SRHR rights. We work on education. We have set 2 years back, we set a library in the rural area after COVID, because we saw that there is a huge school dropout after that COVID impact. So we opened a library for 2 reasons. 1, to promote education. 2, to give a vision. Because we, in this part of the world, I would say in my section of Punjab and everything, we have a very limited knowledge, right? Ye pad lo, wo pad lo, isme ye ho jayega, science pad lo, ye kar lo. Any skill you can turn into an economic power. Be it your fashion sense, be it everything. You have a small skill of drawing, enhance it. So we bring those kind of books to those people, especially to women, to girls, that how they can excel their career with their, skills, and we help them to enhance their skill as well. Beyond that, at my personal level, I also, advocate for feminist foreign policy, AI, and gender dimension, in public diplomacy as well. So now I'm taking my career ahead as analyst. Geopolitical analyst in South Asia as well. Yeah, that's all we do.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, Ridisha, Prateek, do you have any questions for Sagina?
No, I'm inspired, and I'm just listening to her experience, like everything that she has to say. It's very inspirational.
Thank you, Ridisha. But certainly, you can ask any question if you have, because it not just help you, it will help me also, because with every question you think deep and it gives you perspectives. So yeah, for the people also who are going to watch it. So even it's a small, very, very, you feel, that's the thing that happens with me. We inside us, we feel it's very irrelevant, but it's actually very relevant to us. So yeah, we need to ask more questions, and you go ahead with that.
Okay. Well, if you do have any questions for Sagina, please do not hesitate to reach out to her on LinkedIn, and we'll also mention the LinkedIn profile in the video description. We have discussed a lot of solutions where you can start working if you care about the topics that we discussed about around culture, around gender equality, around dialogue, around openness, around unlearning. There is a lot to be done in this space. And in the solutions section, we have mentioned that we will be sharing the notes of whatever I could write and with you, so that you get the right answer. And if you do want to contribute in any way, if you do have an idea which you think you want to develop, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to help you out in that. We will have to guide you, and let's take it forward, because we're all in this together. Okay, Sagina, any concluding remarks before we conclude today's session?
Yeah, I mean, I was writing the points, but I think a lot of things are there. But I will close with the youth, because this session is going to address more youth. So, how can youth participate this in culture, diversity, and everything, which answers to the global good, not just your regional good, and with what forums they can enhance their participation. It helps both ways for youths, like in their personal and career development. There are now ample of opportunities, and with digitalization, the bridge has been, more feasible to reach out the other part of the world. There are a lot of fellowships, there are a lot of exchange programs. Do participate in those, and it starts from very early age now, like 20, and and if somebody has missed that age, there are many fellowships who they do not have, although very limited, but do not have a very age limit criteria, like 40 plus and everything. Because the participation of youth is in this cultural diversity is very important. And if you see the data of UN on this, you will see 30% of the youth have jobs in this cultural program only, and that is under the age of, I think it's more than 30. I have to cross check. It's more than, and a major portion of youth comes under the age of 30. So it's a very significant for your career, for economy aspect also. So give it a good shot, do a research work on this, and go ahead with that. And if I talk about the Indian youth, they are very progressive, very smart, and very articulated. So definitely, the country can have a benefit from our articulated youth.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sagina, for taking out time. We know you are a very, very busy person, and I hope this, this video reaches out to a lot of people. We'll make sure to share it and learn from it. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. If you have any feedback, please feel free to share that with us, and hope all of you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for having me. It was a brilliant opportunity for me to conversate with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours.